Welcome to the 2015 Samford Journalism and Mass Communication Department Wall of Fame inductions. This honor, I believe, is the highest accomplishment a Samford JMC alumnus, JMC alumni, benefactor, faculty member, staff member can attain. It represents significant accomplishments in journalism, service to the department, and dedication to Samford University. So far, only 14 people have received this honor. Randall Williams, Carol Nunley, John Clemenson, Harold Martin, Dennis Jones, George Smith, Hugh Frank Smith, Wayne Atchison, Timothy Robinson, Jasper Hutto, Jack Breimer, Carol Guthrie, Tony Hale, and Debbie McGrady. To be inducted into the Samford JMC Wall of Fame is significant for three reasons. The first is Samford is the oldest journalism and mass communication program in the state of Alabama, celebrating 100 years this year. The second reason is it has produced some of the finest journalists, public relations practitioners, advertising professionals in the country. And the third thing is for the past 2 years, Samford JMC has been ranked the #1 program in the state of Alabama for journalism. Today we induct two new members into the JMC Wall of Fame, Catherine Allen and Al Scroggin. As you can see in the program, they represent everything that Samford JMC is about. Academic excellence, outstanding professional accomplishments, community involvement, generosity, ethical behavior, and a commitment to Samford University. I'd now like to have my friend, JMC benefactor, and 2011 Wall of Fame inductee, George Smith, to induct Al Scroggins. George.
Thank you, Bernie. I'd like to just maybe tell you a little bit about the man. You can read about his biographical accomplishments, or not his biographical accomplishments, but his. And also to Pam and Lilla, his wife of 62 years, and Pam, his oldest daughter, should be listening, or would be listening, or will be listening in South Carolina on the streaming. And we are happy to have them too. Great people. When I think of Al Scroggins, that I've known maybe 50 years or so, the lines that I think of mostly that have been written is, do not go where that path may lead. Go instead to where there is no path, but leave a trail. Albert Scroggins did leave a trail. A young country boy from Dadeville, Alabama, who went right down the road to Auburn University and earned a BA degree in 1942. Immediately after he got his degree, he was enlisted into the U.S. Navy, sent to the South Pacific, and remained until 1945 in World War II. Then he came back and started his academic career again. He left a trail that spanned 60 years of teaching college students. Even more important to me, he spent 62 plus years sharing those dreams for these young people with his beloved Lilla and two precious daughters, Pam and Deb. And Deb has been, or rather Pam has been a tremendous help in gathering some information about Dr. Scroggins for the past few months. Dr. Scroggins' trail left big footprints from 1949 to 2009 on the college scene. He, after the World War, he returned from World War in 1945. He journeyed to the University of Missouri, where he earned a BA, BJ degree and an MA degree, and worked toward a PhD while teaching a load there. His first stop on the college trail was Mississippi College, one of the colleges that Howard College could never win against in football until Bobby Bowden got here. And then the rest is history. Just whipped them all over the place every year. But Al was there for a couple of years, and his next stop was Howard College. After that, he returned to the University of Missouri to complete his PhD and teach again. Immediately after getting his PhD, Northern Illinois University offered Al a visiting professorship, which is quite an accomplishment. After that, in the very first stages of development, the University of South Florida called Dr. Scroggins to build him a journalism program. And then next, the University of South Carolina was looking for a dean to take their program to a higher level. It was a great fit for Al for more than 20 years. Back at Howard College, thinking about Al, he toiled on the old campus at East Lake in buildings that you wouldn't believe anybody would even sit in to learn. Then he enjoyed a couple of years here on the beautiful new campus. And Dr. Scroggins taught journalism, and he had nothing but an old Royal typewriter to go. Plus his intellect and character and patience, which he always had. But he molded a lot of successful young men and women at each stop along the way. And just think about it, he had no copy machines, no fax machines, no typesetting lab, no cameras, no microphones, no anything. But he managed to do. And at the University of South Carolina, over a 20-year period, he built his school from very few students to over 1,200 majors and 30 full-time faculty members. Two of those young men, most of you know, Lil and Al both called them Al's boys. But they're the same two people that helped reestablish this program at Samford University over 25 years ago. And that is the irreplaceable Dr. John Clemson. John's usually here. Is he here now? And the beloved Dr. Dennis Jones. And each time I spoke to Al and Lilla, they asked how these two men were doing. And I think you can look around today and see how they did. It's come a long, long way. Back to Al Scroggins, if you looked at all of the organizations, societies, fraternities in the communications field, if you looked closely, you could see Al Scroggins' name as a member of that organization or as an officer of that organization or a board member. Two things I want to share with you that stand out that I remember about Al's philosophy. Both when I worked with him at now Samford, Howard College, Al was always a great believer in a writer of a story being aware of his personal bias. And that is a biggie, as Carol can tell you. She edits all that. He was a great believer that those who cannot tell their own story, then the communication profession should give their stories life. Two wonderful philosophies for me. Dr. Scroggins and I used to visit several times a year after he began building the School of Journalism at the University of South Carolina. We would talk late into the night, how he strived, and we may have a glass of wine while we were talking. He strived to instill, we talk about how he instilled in his professors and the people he hired the responsibility that a journalist has. He was always pushing that to serve the public, one must strive to be able to control his innate biases. And he did work on it. One of his great pieces of advice to be, always question yourself as tough as you question those you interview or you write about. If you'll do that, then I think you could have some success of controlling your biases a little bit. One other thing, and this is personal, but I'm going to do it anyway. Al, but first, I can always make Al Scroggins laugh. And I've been the worst person in the world to tell jokes, tell stories, and any presentation I ever do, I sure don't even use those tools at all. But for some inexplicable reason, Al Scroggins laughed at just about everything I said. I finally had found someone that I could be funny with. I took advantage of it. In fact, that may be the reason he hired me at Samford. I want to end the induction part of Al with some remarks that Al made. And my visit with Al, my last visit with Al in South Carolina, Columbus, South Carolina, I was not aware at that time that he had had a serious medical problem. We were sitting at his kitchen table for breakfast, and he looked at me and he said, "I've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's." Of course, that was not a good day, but typical of Albert T. Scroggins, a country boy from Dayton, Alabama, that rose to many responsible positions in the academic world. He spoke calmly, kindly, as usual, in his soft voice. He said, "George, I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you to be alarmed. I'm just going across the river and wait on you." It's truly an honor to declare that Dr. Albert T. Scroggins is now part of Samford's Wall of Fame. And thank all of you. Now I get to do one fun thing that I've never been able to do in my life, and that's introduce Bill Nunley. But to be serious about Bill, to me, Bill has been a key ingredient in Samford being recognized as a great asset to this city and this county and this state. His writings always subtly illustrate the wonderful work Samford does. Now, I don't know whether you know it or not, and Bill may not want me to say it, but Bill has been here 4 decades. It was a long, long road getting to the point where Samford is today. 2 years of constant work, promotion, writing, begging for the media to recognize this and give us a chance to prove how good we are. Much of the media thought of Howard College as a little preacher college on the edge of town. We all knew that was not true. But it took a long, long decades to change that. And Bill has been a part of it since then. Bill also is one of the best writers and storytellers that any college or university ever had on his team. I don't know of any better. And I was privileged to work with him for years. He will introduce you to the next inductee, who is also one of my all-time favorite people in this business. Thank you, Bill.
Well, thank you, George, and let me add my congratulations to the family of Al Scroggins, my old journalism professor, for this very well-deserved recognition. And I appreciate your kind words. It's a distinct pleasure for me to have a part in the induction of my good friend, my friend of long standing, Catherine Allen, to the Wall of Fame. And certainly this is a recognition she richly deserves. Catherine literally grew up in newspapering. The publications she edited won awards all along the way. She was editor of the then Howard Crimson for 2 years in the early 60s. The paper won All-America ratings from the American Collegiate Press Association both years. It was Catherine's duty to pick up the awards at the National Convention at Samford expense in Chicago and Miami Beach. Before then, she was editor of her high school newspaper at Woodlawn, the Tatler, also an award winner. I don't remember whether Barrett Elementary School in Eastlake, which we both attended, had a newspaper or not, but if it did, I'm sure Catherine was a big part of it. Catherine is from Eastlake, almost within sight of Samford's old campus. But by the time she reached college age, the school had moved to its present location. She was awarded a full tuition journalism work scholarship. She caught a ride to campus each morning with the woman who ran the special collections department in the library. That might have been Mrs. B. And another writer was Dr. George Irons, the longtime head of the history department. A lot of these Howard people still lived in Eastlake. As I said, Catherine was on a work scholarship and began work in 1960 in the college public relations department, managed by Al Scroggins, assisted by George Smith. She started to work the same day as Howard's longtime photographer, Lou Arnold. Their first assignment was to go to the home of President Leslie Wright and get a story and photo of the new Howard mascot, a bulldog puppy named Duke. Well, Duke got excited and promptly scratched Mrs. Wright, who proceeded to bleed on her pale blue silk dress. Thus my Howard career began, Catherine recalled. Catherine joined the Crimson her freshman year as a cub reporter. The paper was edited by Mary Lane Holland, now Dr. Lane Powell. Catherine began her award-winning editorship the next year, before ultimately handing the reins over to Carol Fishburne, now Nunley. Carol recalls good advice shared by Catherine. Always respect printers. They can save you from making a lot of mistakes. Or something like that. I know Carol is here, and we also have Catherine's old sports editor, or sports editor, long-standing, I should say, Wayne Atchison, with us today. And in fact, as I look out, I see various former members of the Crimson staff, including myself. And I think, you know, we could put out a pretty good newspaper these days, even now. Well, the Crimson was a high priority for Catherine as an undergraduate, but she excelled in other ways as well. She was a member of Hypatia, of Who's Who in American colleges and universities, and was in the founding group of Chi Omega sorority on the campus. She graduated cum laude with double majors in journalism and English in 1964, and she was inducted as an alumna into Phi Kappa Phi National Scholarship Honorary, the highest. But before then, in August of 1963, she married one of the campus's most eligible bachelors, history professor Lee Allen. Catherine began her professional career as a staff member of Women's Missionary Union in 1964. Its national headquarters was here in Birmingham. She edited Sunbeam Activities, a quarterly magazine with a circulation of 55,000. Later, she became news director at WMU. In 1974, she moved to the business side of WMU and held varying titles between then and 1989, ending as Associate Executive Director. She was responsible for a wide variety of areas, including personnel for 165 employees. At the time, WMU had a periodical circulation of about 1 million and an inventory of about 300 non-periodical publications. Catherine learned the ropes of the business side of publishing by attending business classes at Samford and earning an MBA at Emory University, where one of her classes was actually at the London School of Economics. And during this period in 1980, she was also named Samford University Alumni of the Year. And as our program notes, Catherine paved the way for women in Baptist communication, becoming the first woman president of Baptist Public Relations Association, and first woman to chair the Southern Baptist Convention Public Relations Advisory Committee. She was president of the Women's Department of the Baptist World Alliance between 1990 and 1995, traveling to about 50 countries and consulting with women leaders of about 100 countries. She was a founding board member of Associated Baptist Press, now Baptist News Global. With all this, Catherine never got away from her love of the written word that was so apparent early in her career. She's written 6 books on topics of religion and history. She and Lee co-wrote Courage to Care, the story of Ida B. Moffat. And so it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Catherine B. Allen to the Samford University Department of Journalism and Mass Communication Wall of Fame, an honor that so befits her. Catherine. I'm pleased that you're supposed to step up here and accept this memento of this occasion, and I'll turn the podium over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for your merciful words. I remember in high school journalism class, Bill always sat on the back row of the room where we all were laboring away, and our journalism teacher said, he doesn't say anything, but watch out, he will write it. And he knows exactly what's going on. And it's been true. I'm so proud of Bill's great contributions to my life and to this university. Thank all of you for coming today. It's a great privilege to see people who have supported me and been part of our lives since a long, long time ago. I couldn't have begun to do anything without each one of you. And that continues through my family, who are here today, our son Leland, his wife Tracy, and one of our granddaughters, Mary Leland Allen, who is an 8th grader, my brother Lynn Bryant, my husband, the real Lee Allen, and so many others. My first roommate, Danny Robinson Walther, who has come from Huntsville today, and of course the Crimson staff and editors before and after. When Dr. Ankeny let me know about this honor, I started plowing around looking for evidences of how it was in the good old days. And amazingly, I had saved so much of the correspondence that came. I saw the letter from Al Scroggins, written on the manual typewriter with the keys striking a little off whack now and then, and there it was, such a nice letter. I was invited to come to campus for an interview in preparation for possibly getting some financial aid to come to Howard College as it was then known. We, of course, knew a lot about Howard College on the old campus, but coming over here to this new campus was like going to a foreign land. We didn't really know how to get across town. Our car was a 1947 Dodge, known in our family lovingly as the Bomb, rusted out, the floorboard lined with old license plates to keep the road scum from coming up into the compartment of the car. I was so embarrassed to be coming over to this great new campus and such a terrible thing. Yeah, I'm sure you don't remember the Bomb, but it was well known on our street. So when we got over to campus and Mama haltingly parked in the circle there in front of Samford Hall, she kept her foot on the brake while I jumped out to put a brick under the wheel so the car wouldn't roll, because that's what we had to do. Went into Samford Hall, and then I found out that Dr. Wright's office overlooked that spot. That's the way it was located. And I knew that Dr. Wright had seen our inauspicious arrival on campus in the Bomb and me putting the brick under the wheel. Then he called Mr. Scroggins up to meet us. It was then I learned that Mr. Scroggins lived in our neighborhood in Eastlake and had undoubtedly seen the Bomb parked there with me maybe getting in and out. I thought, oh, it's all over now. They will never let me in this place. But amazingly, they did. with a generous scholarship, which enabled me to complete 4 years with no expense to my family. And what a great blessing it was that from day one I was surrounded by you wonderful colleagues and teachers, George Smith. And it's great to be remembering Mr. Scroggins on this day of my induction, because he really did do wonderful things to promote the cause of teaching journalism communications on this campus and elsewhere. And he kept up with me. I have correspondence from him from through the years. Such a gentleman, so quiet, so insistent on a high standard, so very knowledgeable and nice. And I appreciate his legacy so much, carried on by others of you who have served in the journalism department through the years, now journalism mass communication. It's been an honor recently to meet some of the current students, and it's great to see the promise that they hold. I know that this university will continue to support students who are deserving but have potential, and surround them with colleagues, fellow students who have the ability to teach and encourage and support and become friends for a lifetime. Grateful to God and to all of you.